the Applied Energistics saga continues. Hopefully this will be the last episode where everything we've set up so far and everything I've talked about, I can kind of circle back all to this video and how I'm actually going to set everything up. And I think it'll be pretty cool when everything comes together and how I plan to like tie in my Applied Energistics system to all the other automations and builds that we're going to be doing. So let's crack on with that. The first thing I want to fix is these devices that are from Applied Energistics or its supporting mods like Extended or Advanced AE will be able to pull power directly from your system, but things like Mekanism, crushers, or furnaces, or anything like that that we set up will not be able to do that. That's why I have to power these guys individually with these gates, but we're going to fix that today with a really cool support mod from Applied Energistics called AppliedFlux. And what AppliedFlux does is it gives you FE storage cells that lets you store power inside of your system on these cells, and then you can automatically output those to devices from pattern providers or from like a export bus, things like that. So the first thing we need to do is make one of these cells, and I have the components on AutoCraft, and let's see if we can't make a 256 million one, the energy storage component. I don't have patterns for these things. That's going to require a lot. Let's just settle with the 1 million one for now. Require lots of redstone. And I'm going to fix the issue with the blocks. I don't want to set up recipes for blocks and ingots because we're going to be using the bulk storages, and that'll automatically take care of that. I'll show you guys that a little bit later in this episode as well. So we have the 1 million component going, and then we will also need the cell housing. We want to have fluid substitutions turned on for this recipe for the water, and that'll just use the water from inside of our system, as long as you have a bucket in there. So let's make some buckets. All right, so we're going to combine our 1 million component with the cell housing, and that'll give us a 1 million FE storage cell. That doesn't mean this stores 1 million FE. It's going to store way more than that. Let's, I don't know, put that guy over here. So each byte is 1 million FE. So the 1 million times 1 million FE is how much this one cell can hold. And then the 256 mil is going to be even more. So crazy amounts of storage for power. Once we have that, we need a way to put power inside of that. And you do that through these flux accessors. And we're going to need to change up the way our power situation is handled. So let's go over here. This guy we don't need anymore because we have our quantum computer. And this thing's not doing anything. So we just have this guy, which means I can organize these a bit better. By the way, if you're wondering where your facades are, you can make a network tool, which is the most frustrating thing in all of Applied Energistics. And when you hold the network tool, it reveals where your facades are. The reason why this is frustrating is the network tool has a little storage for your little like upgrade cards, and anytime you're looking at your system, it opens that up so you can easily put the upgrade cards inside of the machines. But when it's focused, because when this is open, it's focusing on this network tool, and I can't click it. You can't, there's no way for you to put it in your Applied Energistics system. The only way to do it is if you had like a chest with an import bus and you can put it in there. It's really dumb. So what I end up doing is I just trash it after I'm done using it every time. But anyways, what we wanted to do was use our wrench. Where did our wrench go? Oh, we used the wrench for this. We'll make another wrench. And let's open up the ceiling over here. And that wireless thing I will put in the ceiling right there. And we're going to need our, what's it called? Wireless linking card. Link this guy back up with this guy. All right, so that guy is linked. And we can get rid of all of those. Now everything's going to run in the ceiling, and we connect our P2P backup. And this was the P2P tunnel. That was Let's go ahead and take a look. One of these will be 0. I guess multiple. It's going to be this first one, I'm pretty sure. That was the one we were using. So I can set that guy up over here, and that's 30 channels going to all of those things. We can grab those facades again and cover this up. So with this area all cleared up, I can actually go ahead and set up a little area over here for our power. I'm going to move our power from the compact machine down to this room, and I'll show you why in just a second. So let's make sure we have everything, because once I pick this up, it's going to shut down our system because nothing will be getting powered anymore. What we need is an energy acceptor, and then also the flux accessor, and we need to make a energy cube from Mekanism, and I will make this the highest tier. All right, we're going to pick up all these guys, our inventory cables. This whole area is going to get broken down. All right, so I went ahead and moved our power setup to inside of this applied energistics area. So it's no longer inside of the compact machine. And let me kind of walk you through how and why I have this set up the way it is. So these guys are getting lava from our infinite lava source from the nether, just like before. And then that power, I'm using Super Factory Manager, and I'm putting that power inside of the energy cube. That's from Mekanism. The reason why I'm doing that is because Super Factory Manager can't directly output power to an energy acceptor. So this energy acceptor is connected with a wireless connector to our main controller. And so that's how I'm powering our main controller. Our main controller doesn't have any of the gates on it anymore. So if we go up here and take a look, I removed all of those gates. So now it's being powered directly through that energy acceptor that's coming from here. And then we have the flux accessor over here. And that is, so first it's going to the energy cube, and then it's the rest of the remaining power is going to the flux accessor. So when the energy cube is full, the rest of the power gets input in the flux accessor, which is going to our FE cell that we created. So if I take a look in here, you can see I've got 600 million power that's already stored inside of that FE cell. That assures that whatever power we're producing gets outputted to our applied energistics system first. That way, we never pull too much power from something else and our applied energistics system goes down. And what the energy cube is also doing is it's inputting power from the flux accessor. So if we ever use more power with our applied energistics system, let's say we're having a really big craft going on and it's using more power than we can produce with our magmators, when this buffer starts to go down, it's going to pull power from the flux accessor, which is the power stored inside of our FE cell. So not only can it power with the FE cell from inside of our system, but it's also prioritizing all of the power that we're producing to make sure our system never goes down. So that's how I'm kind of assuring that. And we also had a problem where this sub-controller that's powering all of our P2P tunnels is kind of running out of power quickly. You can see that it goes all the way down to like, because right now it can only store 20,000 power inside of it. And we are using a lot of that. So we also need to power this controller, and what we can do there is just use a quartz fiber. So this guy is connected over here. Let me show you. Over here with these P2P devices. And I should be able to pull a quartz fiber on this cable that's on the other side of our P2P, right? Because this side of the P2P is our main controller. The back side of the P2P is our sub-controller. So we can put that on there, and I can use this cable to now loop that power back into our sub-controller. And then we can facade this. Like that. And now I should be able to remove this gate, and this is going to be powered. This is, you can see that quartz fiber is over here, right? So now this controller and this controller are both being prioritized and being powered directly from this system. That's not quite enough to solve all of our power issues, because if we do a craft that uses a ton of power, then it's going to drain the power we have stored inside of our controller here very quickly, because we only have 1 million stored. So if we're moving a ton of items, and you can see this guy's already going down to 0 and running out. So the way we can fix that is by having super dense energy cables. And let me grab those. And each of these super dense energy cells can store 12 million FE inside of them. And those guys I'm just going to put over here. I guess we can, these guys don't use channels. So as long as they're connected to something, it'll work. And I'm just going to put them all in between these drives to dramatically increase the amount of power our system can hold. Now, if we take a look in here, you can see this number is going down rather quickly because it's pulling our energy cube here, is pulling that power from the flux accessor from inside of here to power our main network, which now has a much higher buffer of energy on the inside. So you can see these cells are starting to get filled up. So now if we go back and take a look at our controller, instead of the 1 million FE we had before, now it's up to 500 million FE. So now we're going to have a much easier time keeping up with power demands if we're running large crafts or doing things like that. So just to review, this wireless connector is connected to our main controller, which is powering our energy acceptor and our flux accessor. So this energy acceptor and flux accessor is connected to our main controller. All of the power that we're producing is going inside of this ultimate energy cube that is pushing it first into the energy acceptor, going to our main network. If that's not enough, then if the buffer in here starts to run lower, it's going to pull the rest of the power from this flux accessor that is storing power inside of that energy cell. So it's going to come from there. So that's why you see that number going down, is because it's filling those energy cells that I just set up. That's giving us the 500 million buffer. Okay, and then our code, we're outputting all the power we're producing to that energy cube first, and then whatever is left over, we're putting it into the flux accessor. So right now, all of the power is going in here. That's still not enough because we're basically needing to fill up 500 million FE worth of buffer. And so it's pulling the rest from this flux accessor. But as soon as that fills up, you can see those filled up. So now this number is going back up because all of our excess power is going back into the FE cell. I hope that makes sense. And then the way we're powering our subcontroller is, if we go over here, just imagine that wireless connector. The continuation of that wireless connector is over here. So imagine this and that wireless connector are the same thing. So this is where our P2P is, which means it's the bridge between our subcontroller and our main controller. And all I did was put a quartz fiber here. So the power that is going into our energy acceptor can also go into our subcontroller, which is the little controller I have up here, powering all of our P2P devices. Because if this controller goes down and all of our P2P devices go down, then it's going to mess up all of our channels and nothing's going to work. So we need to make sure that one doesn't run out either. We can also increase the buffer of this guy. So let's grab another super dense energy cell. And if we take a look here, the max power for this guy is 20,000 FE, which is very, very small. But if we put this guy back here, let's say in the ground, like that. Now this guy is 25 million FE stored power. So if we go up here and check, that should now be part of this. It's not because it's on the wrong side. We can fix that by removing this. We will put the quartz fiber here and then put the energy acceptor here and connect it like that. Does that make sense? So right now, this is directly connected to our subcontroller, and then the quartz fiber here cuts the connection from here, and it only lets the power transfer. So now, I know it's a little bit confusing, but bear with me. So now when we check this controller, you can see that the 25 million buffer is part of this subcontroller. All right. With that setup, now we can power all of these devices from the FE cell inside of our system. And this is really cool how it works. Basically, we're going to need a induction card. So I'll make a recipe for that. And what happens with these is you can take these induction cards, and when you put it inside of like a pattern provider, it's going to use the power from your FE cell in here to power the machines that it's touching. So now I can get rid of all of these gates, and these crushers are going to be powered directly with our induction card from the FE stored in our FE cell. So that is super cool. That's how we're going to have that set up, and I can have more of those. So let's make more extended pattern providers. What I can do is copy the device configuration for this pattern provider, put the next one, on top, and then paste the induction card and all of those in there. And now I can make 4 more of these crushing factories and put them in there, and it'll double our production speed of crushing recipes. So I'll set that up later. And then I will also increase these guys. I'll probably put more assemblers and more reaction chambers just so we have faster throughput. All right, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about what's going on over here. So if we use our network tool that I deleted, I like to delete those, and we take a look down here, I have some cables splitting off of this wireless connector that's running all of our P2P channels, right? So this P2P is powering, so all of those 30 channels are powering our assembler matrix, the quantum computer, as well as all of our drives. And then this guy going over here, it's using 5 channels for the 5 P2P tunnels up there. So that's connected to this wireless connector. And these P2P tunnels can each carry 32 channels. And this is where I'm going to set up all of my wireless connectors to move my applied energistics wirelessly around the island. This first one is set up. So wireless connectors, let's go ahead and make a few of them so I can show this to you. Okay, let's talk about these wireless connectors. Basically, if you guys remember from the previous episode, I mentioned that they work just like dense cables. So I can put down like 4 wireless connectors, and we'll put down a smart cable so you guys can see what's going on. And when I put this on, you can see that one channel is going all the way to our network. So if I open that up, you can see that one channel is going in between. So these wireless connectors themselves don't use any channels. Just like how adding cables on a controller doesn't use any channels, right? But if I have a device connected to the cable, then the channel for that device flows through this cable. That's the same thing with these wireless connectors. When you set them up, they don't use any channels, but as you add more and more devices on the other side, those channels are going to flow through. So those 6 channels for these 6 drives are flowing through all of these wireless connectors over here. See, if I put another one up here, now it's 7. And then if I put another one over here, it's going to be 8. So what this means is when you first put down your wireless connectors, they are basically not taking up any channels. But as you add more and more devices on your wireless connector, it's going to saturate that cable. So if I put down another one over here, you can see one of these devices will go offline. It's this one that's missing a channel. So you want to be careful with that when you set up your wireless connectors, because if I set them all up right next to each other over here, and I keep adding more and more devices to wherever the setup is, then it can cause this dense cable to get oversaturated, and then some of our devices will stop working. Now, I'm making a bet that I don't think I'm going to be using 32 channels for every single one of my connectors. So what I've kind of set up here is different P2P tunnels, and each row, each column of wireless connectors is going to have the ability to share 32 channels together. So if I'm using 5 from here, if I have another one over here that's using some and another one over here, I basically have to make sure that each column of wireless connectors doesn't go above 32 channels. If you wanted to make sure that you have the full 32 channel throughput for your wireless connectors, then you could just set up a P2P tunnel on the back of every single one of them. Like so. And then you would have these P2P tunnels all linked to different P2P tunnels on your controller over there. But I think having 32 channels for every single one is a little bit too much, so I'm opting to just do 32 total channels shared between a column of wireless connectors. Now, if I set down another wireless connector over here, and I have another dense cable over here, you can see that these guys all connect together, and that's going to be a problem. So I want to make sure that these don't connect. And for cables, you can use cable anchors by putting them in between the cables, and that'll sever the connection, so those don't connect together. But these wireless connectors, again, they work just like your dense cables, right? So these guys are going to connect together, and I don't want that. So the only option we have for separating those guys is by coloring them different colors, and we can do that with the color applicator. So we have this thing we provide it with power, and then we also need to give it some, some dyes. This will take every single dye from Minecraft. So all of these, there are 16 different dyes. So I'm going to partition those dyes for there, and we're going to use an ME or a cell workbench. And my cell workbench, I can just set down over here next to our drives, because that's where we'll be using it most of the time. And I can put this in here, and I would like an equal distribution card in here. And what the equal distribution card is going to do is make sure that it reserves some area for all the different types of items that are in there. And that way it won't fill up with one color of the dye while the rest of them are not available. So I'm going to partition this guy with all these different colored dyes. And then one other thing I'm going to partition in there is snowballs. And snowballs basically clears the color back into the fluix. So with those guys all partitioned, we can now put this inside of an ME chest, or I'm going to use an IO port. So let's grab, I have an IO port from Extended AE, and that guy takes some acceleration cards. So let's put those in there. And then you flip this, so it's going to go from our drives into the color applicator. So when I put this, you can see it fills up with whatever dyes that we have. Now that's not all of them, right? Because some of them are still missing. So what I'm going to do is just make the rest of the colors go like this, and we'll make more of these colors with our dye essence. So I made a bunch more dyes, and I'm going to put this in there, and all of those are going to get filled up to 768. That's the maximum they can have with it, with those many things partitioned. I just need some snowballs, and that's going to be really easy. We can just do that with a bucket of water. And if you right-click the entropy manipulator on a flowing water, it's going to turn it into snowballs. So I can do that to grab a few. That should be enough. So let's stick that in here one more time to fill it up with the snowballs. Okay, now with this color applicator, we can color these things in different colors. So let's say this first set of cables, I want to do, I don't know, white, right? When I make this white, you can see it doesn't connect with the black cable, but it connects with all of these wireless connectors because the fluix color can connect to everything. So if I take some fluix cable and put it next to it, you can see the fluix is connecting. So fluix connects to everything, but the colors only connect to the same color. But what I can also do is color these wireless connectors white, and now these guys can connect together, but they won't connect to different colored wireless connectors next to them. So let's say this next set we can do cyan, and we shift right click to color all of these cyan. So now the white and the cyan are not going to connect together, and these cables we can make cyan, and you can block pick, by the way. So if you middle click on whatever you're looking at, it'll pick that color. All right, so now these guys are going to be separate. So each one of these cables is going to be able to do 32 channels into its own dedicated P2P tunnel. And that's how I'm going to set all these guys up. So we'll do our cables like this. And the next one can be light blue, and the one after that can be magenta. And we can do red for these guys. So now those guys are all separated and they can each do 32 channels. And I can set up our wireless connectors on this side and make sure it's the same color. And then they won't connect to each other either. So I need 7 more wireless connectors. Here's the rest of our wireless connectors we can hook up, and now this is going to be ready for us to use. So I'll just middle click to select the red one and then make sure these guys are all red. These guys will be magenta. These guys will all be blue, and the cyan. Oops. And those guys will all be cyan. So this is all set up and ready to be used, and we can just set up a wireless connector somewhere else and link it to these guys. So this first one that's set up is this one down here that we're using. And you can put greater energy cards in here and they'll use less power. So right now it's using about 70 AE per tick, which is different than FE per tick. But all right, and that's going to be really easy for us to basically wirelessly transfer our applied energy system everywhere on our island, wherever we're doing different setups. Let me clean all this up. Now let's continue our automation. I do want to set up maybe over here in the center. So over here, we need more cables, and I can grab that from... So I'm going to need another P2P over here to basically automate our, what do you call it? Our matter balls, and I'll show you how that's going to be done. So here we need another P2P tunnel. And this guy we're only going to be using 2 channels for this P2P tunnel, so I can couple it with something else that's not going to be using a ton. So this guy is pretty much already full. I don't know what this one is, so I'll just grab that guy. And we can paste that over here. Now we're going to have access to channels here. And I just need a couple of channels. Let's grab our facade to put over here. And what I'm going to do is bring this up 2, and we'll grab our pattern providers. And we just need the regular ones for this. I'll grab 2 of them. And I'm going to change these to the cable subpart variants and put them like that. And then we're going to put our matter condensers here, and this is going to fully automate our singularities and matter balls. So the one on the bottom I will put to condense into matter balls, and then the one at the top will condense into singularities. The reason why I'm using pattern providers is because pattern providers bypass the input limit of the condensers, so they'll output all the items in here at once to make however many singularities we requested. So if we take a look at, we're going to need some 64Ks in there. So here's one. You could make the higher tier ones, it just adds more storage, but the 64K will be fine. And we're going to put that in each of these. And I'm going to need to make some patterns for those. So the pattern for the singularity is going to be a processing pattern, and each singularity is going to require 32,000 buckets of water. So we're going to make this into 32,000. And every 32,000 buckets of water is going to give us 1 singularity. So we can put that in this pattern provider. Now, if I request, let's say 1,000 singularities, well, let's do 64, right? And I press next, it's going to use 2 million water. And look at that. So it's immediate. As long as you have enough power inside of your system, it'll make them all immediately. But you can see it gets stuck in here, so we need a way to get that back into the return inventory of our pattern provider. And I'm going to use transfer labels for that. So here we have a bunch of these guys, and I'll grab one of them. And this is the extract one, so it's going to go on the matter condenser side. And then if I use our wrench, we can increase the speed and the amount. So I'm going to max out so we can do a full stack at a time. And then we'll also max out the speed. So this is as fast as it can go. Now, if we do, let's say 1,000 singularities, oops. That's how fast it did 1,000 singularities. But you can see it like completely wiped out all of our stored power. So it uses a ton of power to do that. That's why the super factory manager method is nice, because it doesn't use up power. So that's for that. Remember, 32,000 buckets gives you 1 singularity. And then we are also going to do our matter balls. And the recipe for these guys, 256 items. And this one is going to be 32 buckets of water will give us a single matter ball. But we can multiply that by 64. So we do a stack at a time. So I think, let's take a look. We want to do the matter ball. It's going to be 2,048 buckets of water will give us 64 matter balls. Let me see if that will work out. So if I request 1 matter ball, it should make us 64. And the way you request, if you already have something, is you just press middle click. So it'll use 2,048 buckets of water to give us 64 of those. And that works, and we have 0 stored energy. Perfect. So that's the ratio. 2,048 buckets of water for 64 matter balls. And then we just need more of these item stack things. And we're going to put another extract on the back of this matter condenser, edit it, and put the maximum stack and speed upgrades in there. All right, so now if we want, let's say, 200 matter balls, ta-da, it just made it all. All right, so matter balls and singularities are automated with these matter condensers, and things are shaping up. The only thing left to kind of talk about before, well, I'm going to expand this automation more, like I mentioned before. So I'll just add more mechanism crushers, more assembler matrices. I'll put some furnaces here. The setup for that is going to look exactly the same as what you've seen before. And for this guy, it's going to have the induction card for the furnaces, for the crushing factories. So it'll automatically power them, and then they can auto eject back into the pattern provider. So those are very simple. But let's talk about item storage. You may have noticed I haven't made any patterns for ingots, nuggets, or blocks. That's because I'm going to be using bulk storage cells. These guys are super cool. Let me make some patterns for them. And we're also going to want the compression card. So let's go to make a bulk item storage cell and a compression card. The way these guys work, they hold a maximum long integer value. So it's like 9 trillion or quintillion. I think it's 9 quintillion items of a single type. So we're going to put there, and then the compression card automatically compresses them to the maximum amount. So let's say we want diamonds, for example, right? So I can partition this guy for diamonds. And now when I put this inside of our IO port, it'll fill it up with all of the diamonds we have in our system, which is 2.7 million. So that's how I'm going to be storing all of our items. And what this does is it compresses your diamonds. So now when we look at it, our diamonds, we only have 200 of those diamonds, but the rest of them are being compressed up to like the 3x, 4x, you know? So I want the ability to have it be compressed, but I want to see them all as the normal diamonds we have. And the way you can do that is when you put it back in the cell workbench, you can do a cutoff for the compression. So I'm going to do the cutoff as just a normal diamond. So now it's going to store everything in here as a normal diamond, but it's still going to give you the ability to grab the higher tiered stuff. The only thing we need is a decompression module, and this has to go somewhere on your network. So we can just put it up here, like behind this guy. And now, when we look at diamonds, you can see all of the compressed versions as well as the ingots, the nuggets show up. So our diamonds are all showing up as normal diamonds, but if I shift click on the nuggets, you can grab stacks of those. If you want this one, look, I can grab a stack of the compressed ones. And this will also work with your auto crafting, so we don't have to make recipes for nuggets and blocks and all of that for all of our ingots. It's going to get stored and we'll see the total value of that we have in the ingot form. And then it'll have the basically crafting recipes for the blocks of all the compressed versions as well as the nuggets. So we don't have to set up a block, an ingot, a 2x compressed, a 3x, a 4x compressed recipe inside of our crystal assembler, or not crystal assembler, the assembler matrix for all those recipes. So I'm going to change over all of those items that we have from our sieves as well as from the ones from our gears. They're all going to be held inside of these bulk storage cells, and they're going to work seamlessly with our auto crafting. And these guys don't misreport the items like the compression drawers do from functional storage, because you can have basically it misreports it, and then when you try to auto craft something, you don't have enough items for it. So this works seamlessly with it. All right, so in essence, that is how everything is going to be. So wherever I'm doing a setup now, I can grab a wireless connector, right? And let's say this is like on our other island. We'll put this down. You link it up to, let's say, this guy. So now this is online. And then we can grab an interface and we will hook up the interface to the wireless connector wherever the setup is, and it's going to be online, right? Then we can put an induction card in here. And this will allow us to stock power in here. So this guy that has power in it, I can use it to right click. And now this interface is going to be storing 4 million FE, kind of like a battery. And we can use Super Factory Manager to move that power around to power a machine, or like, let's say a cube, right? So this cube is empty. So let's say this is a machine that's going to do something and it's going to require coal and power, for example, right? So I can store coal inside of this interface, and I can keep a stack of coal in there. And with our Super Factory Manager, I can just say every tick do, we're going to input the FE from the interface and output that to the cube. And then you can do an end and then say like every 20 ticks do input that coal from interface and then output to machine, whatever that is, right? So we'll do something like that, and then we can have our cube over here and our interface over there, and just make sure that the top side of this cube is on input. And then you can see this is immediately filled with power. So with just the wireless connector and the interface and Super Factory Manager, we can basically automate every single thing for the rest of the pack. And it's going to be completely tied into our Applied Energistics system, and all the power and the fluids and everything items can all come from one interface, and then Super Factory Manager will deal with all the logistics of it. I hope you like that plan. I think it keeps things very organized, and it's a cool way of doing everything. So none of our setups are going to have any cables or anything, and it'll be wireless and seamless, and it'll look very, very good. So I cleaned up this area a little bit by moving the energy cell down here. So I just put it in the middle, and now we can cover it with the facade, and it doesn't look ugly. I went ahead and expanded these guys and upgraded our crushers to the ultimate factories. And these guys are fully upgraded with their speed, muffling, and energy upgrades. Now, while we're doing stuff with Mekanism, let me show you guys how I'm going to be automating the Mekanism infusion things, because that is a little bit of a process for people. We are going to be, well, first of all, let's do 4 enrichment chambers. And the way I have this set up is basically I can make the normal enrichment chambers, and we'll put those guys down like this, around it. And then we have the tier installers from Mekanism. So I'll go ahead and make 4 of each of those. And we can just upgrade these to their factories like that. Rather than having separate autocrafts for like all the tiers of enriching factories and all the tiers of the crushing factories, all the tiers of blah, blah, blah. We just have the base machine autocrafting recipe, and then we just do the tier installers for the rest of them. All right, those guys are all upgraded too. Now take a look at this. When I go ahead and grab my induction card, So these guys, none of them have any power, right? And as soon as I put the induction card in there, look at that, they all have power now. So now we have the enrichment chambers automated. We'll go ahead and make the recipes for all the infusion materials. So coal will give us enriched carbon. Then we have redstone for enriched redstone, the enriched diamonds, enriched obsidian, all these recipes. So those guys will go in there. And now we need to automate the infusion factories. The problem with these infusion factories is when you input the, I'm just going to dump all of these out so they're empty. So these infusion factories, the way side configuration works for Mekanism is the extra slot where it's the infusion material and the input slots cannot be from the same side of the machine. Like if I have this one on input or input output, I cannot also do the extra slot on here. So you have to insert the extra slot item from a different side, which makes this really complicated to automate because your pattern provider, when it pushes the materials out, it's pushing all the materials from the same side. And we need the ability to push the materials to a different side for the infusion material. And that is where the advanced pattern provider comes in from advanced AE. So the advanced pattern provider has the ability to push the ingredients for the crafting recipe to different sides of the machine. So let's go ahead and place all of these infusers down. And the way this is going to work, the side that they're going to receive the normal items that go up here, I'm going to leave as the default side, which is going to be where the back of the machine is, where the pattern provider is. So that's going to be on input output because we want the output of the finished product to also go back into the pattern provider, and we'll turn auto eject on. And then all of these machines, so the backside of this machine is facing west. The backside of this machine is facing south. So the backsides of all of these machines are different. The only sides they have a shared common side is the top and the bottom. So the top and the bottom for all of these guys is shared, and none of them are going to be used by the pattern provider. So that's where we're going to be inputting our extra item. So I'm just going to do the top, right? And the top is going to be the extra slot for all of these guys. So I'm also going to set that up. All right, so now these machines are going to accept the items that go from here, from whichever side from the back of the machine, which is where the pattern provider is. And then the craft material is going to push back into the pattern provider from that same side. That's the input output side. And then from the top side is going to receive the extra input for the infusion material over here. So let's make the recipes for all the infused material. So let's say the alloys, right? When we make the recipe for this redstone alloy, it's going to be 1 copper ingot uses 10 millibuckets of redstone material. That means each enriched redstone is going to give us 80 millibuckets. So 1 enriched redstone is going to be able to craft 8 copper ingots into 8 infused alloys before it's used up all 80 millibuckets. The reason why we want to do it that way is so we don't have any leftover infusion material inside of the machine. 1 craft is going to use all of the materials, and that's just how the ratios work out. So for this guy, instead of the infused material, we're going to do enriched redstone. So we're going to put in 1 enriched redstone, and that's going to it's going to use 8 pieces of copper to make 8 of these infused alloys. So this is the recipe. We make this recipe, and we're going to use the advanced pattern encoder, and we put it in here. The copper we're going to leave to target from the pattern provider, but the extra material, you remember we set it from the top side. So we're going to select that it's going to insert this extra material from the up side of the machine, right? So now this is an advanced pattern, and the recipes in it is going to input the copper from whatever side the pattern provider is adjacent to the machine, and then the infused material is going to go from the top. So that means this is ready now. And when we put this in here and we do the infused redstone, let's say 100 of those, you can see the extra material went in there on all of these machines, and it's making them auto eject or auto sort on. Same with this guy. And there you go. It just made the 100 infused alloy. The ratios are a little bit different. So the reinforced alloy is going to be, so each infused alloy uses 20 millibuckets. So it's going to be 1 to 4. So when we do this and we have enriched diamonds, this is going to be 1. Oops. And it's going to require 4 infused alloy to make 4 reinforced alloy. And then again, we put that inside of our advanced pattern encoder, and this is going to target the upside of the machine. And we put that in there. Up next is going to be the atomic alloy, and that's going to use refined obsidian. And you see this one uses 40 millibuckets, so it's going to be 1 to 2, because you're still getting, you're still getting, for one enriched obsidian, you're getting 80 millibuckets. So that is consistent from all the different enriched materials. All right, so when we do this one, the enriched obsidian is going to be 1 of those to 2 of these and 2 of these. And then again, the extra material is going to be the top side of the machine. So these guys are automated almost fully. What happened to my induction card in this? I must have never put one in there. There's the induction card. So now these guys are full of power. I guess I'm going to make one more. And I wonder, let's grab the memory card. I wonder if the memory card also copies over the advanced patterns. So if I put that guy down and paste it in, yeah, it looks like it does that too. Very nice. So if you can see where it says enriched redstone, there's a U in parentheses. That means it's going to be inserted on the upside, from the upside. So we can make 4 more of these infusion factories and put them around for this guy. So we have our enriching factories, our infusing factories, 2 layers, and then the one last layer I'm going to use to make the osmium compressor. So we'll put that guy up there. And this is the same exact situation because the osmium compressor requires an extra item as well. Let's leave one open for the recipe. So now this guy has an extra slot too. And again, where this is, it's going to be input output, and then the top again we'll do as our extra. Now let's take a look at the osmium compressor recipes. So we want the refined obsidian dust to refined obsidian ingot. And this uses 200 millibuckets of osmium for 1 ingot. And 1 ingot of osmium gives you 200. So it's a 1-to-1 recipe. So that is going to use 1 ingot of osmium. And we go ahead and put that in there. The extra material is going to be inserted from the top side. I think that's the only one I really care about right now. We don't need any of these plates. I guess refined glowstone we can do. All right, and then our last osmium. Did I put... No, I need an induction card in there. Don't forget about your induction cards. This does not work without it. And then there's our last osmium compressor. Input, output, backside, extra on the top, auto-eject on. And then we can upgrade these guys to factories. Okay, I think that's almost all done. Now the crushing factory needs to also do the obsidian. So we need the obsidian dust from the crusher. That's going to be that recipe. And then this one, refined obsidian, is we need to do as well, right? So this refined obsidian one, it's going to be 1 to 8 with the enriched. So 1 of this guy, and then 8 and 8 of those. And I will make 4 of these for all 4 of our infusion things. Right, and we put these guys in, make sure it's all on the upside. Oh, actually, we just needed 2 of those, I guess. It's the crushing ones that we needed. So this recipe, we're going to need 4 of to put in the crushers. And these guys are nice. They have a little thing you can or get the backside. Alrighty, so now those guys should all be set up, and let's say we want 100 of these energy upgrades. It's going to be able to craft those infused alloys in here. All right, so Mekanism is also all automated. This empty slot over here, I'm going to put another set of infusion factories, upgrade all of those guys up to the ultimate tier, and then put the maximum speed and efficiency upgrade. Same thing with these osmium compressors. So then this tower will also be done. And then I will just add some furnaces on, I don't know, maybe back here or something. All right, so those guys are all set up. And we've got our next pattern provider here with the induction card, and this will be for our furnaces. So we set these guys up, put the induction card in there, make sure these guys have the factory augments. I'm going to leave auto split off for these because they make them so fast, but we do need to set the side configurations. So we are going to auto output to the back of the machine, and then the rest of these are going to be none, except for also the back. The back is going to be input output like that, and then auto eject on. Same thing with this guy. The back is going to be input output with auto output on, and the rest of them will be off. And then once we get vibranium and unobtainium, we can upgrade these guys up to the next tier as well. All right, well, we got everything pretty much set up now. Now we can move forward and, you know, move on with our applied energistics. This is going to make our life much, much more convenient. I hope you guys enjoyed this setup and our little applied energistics saga. But finally over, it took 3 episodes. Thank you for bearing with me. But we're going to come back in the next episode and move on to something different. So stay tuned for that. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.